Well, hello, folks, and welcome once again to the Joel Saint Show. It's great to have you along with us. I am Joel Saint, your host, father, grandfather, and pastor. And the purpose of this podcast is to encourage you to love the law, word of God, the statutes, ordinances, and judgments of the word of God, the way the psalmist does in Psalm 119. Well, this has been a little while, and I've wanted to do a podcast on this whole Trump assassination thing. And new information keeps on coming in, and I just had to put a stop to it at some point and say, hey, we just have to do this podcast. So let's jump right into it. There's an awful lot of, let me back up to say, first of all, that I agree with Ron Paul, who said we probably, in a recent article in Lou Rockwell, he said we'll probably never know what actually happened. And I think he's correct. We're still dependent on news sources that have skillfully lied to us in the past. And there are some folks, some of you out there are, we would call you, kind of radical people, like, what in the world? Like, you don't even believe it was a real assassination attempt. You think the whole thing is an act, and you believe that. I saw one writer who said that it wasn't even Trump. It was a stand-in for Trump. I don't agree with that position, but I don't think you're crazy for having it. It's everything's just so crazy right now. So I understand why you could believe something like that. Everything is just crazy right now. I don't believe that position. I am somewhat sympathetic to it, but I'm not on board with that particular position, but I understand it. Now, saying that it was a serious attempt, let's just say that it was, there are a few videos that I want to certainly pass on to you. Perhaps you have not seen these. We've all seen the videos of the incompetent, I guess they were Secret Service ladies, whatever, that one dear lady who could not holster her weapon again. I mean, even anyone who's had the most basic training in working with a pistol, that's one of the things you learn how to do. You learn how to holster your weapon. Your pistol, if you ever take it out, is eventually going to have to go back in to that holster. You might want to learn how to put it back in there. But we've seen that. We've seen the other dear lady with her trying to, making sure her sunglasses were properly placed on her face. Wow, it was just comical, really. Keystone Cops come to mind. But there's some other videos that I want to pass on to you right now. And this first one comes from Clayton Morris at Redacted. I'll include the entire podcast in the comments, not in the comments section, excuse me, in the description. This has to do with what's called the Pac-Man perimeter, and you will see very quickly that this makes no sense at all. Apparently, the perimeter around the stage where Trump was, it has a Pac-Man look to it. You'll see what I mean. Take a look at this.
I want to talk about some new pieces of evidence that are actually really compelling. So let's take a look. It's being called the Pac-Man perimeter. So let's take a look at this. The reason it's calling the Pac-Man perimeter is because that's exactly what it looks like. Looks like Pac-Man. How? Let's keep this up on the screen. How is the rooftop that Dallas Alexander was just talking about excluded from the Secret Service or state police security bubble that was set to be? It's
literally the only thing you can climb in that radius. Right,
well,
we don't need that.
He just pointed out. Also, you can see the water tower in that image. Like, that water tower is a pretty high vantage point where you could get a pretty good view too. Like, I mean, I'm no military sniper, but like he said, like Fortnite or just any first person shooter game, like that's where you would go.
I mean, I'd almost rather you flip the Pac-Man over so that the mouth of the Pac-Man is over the lake that's right there, the retention pond that's right there, where people in the water, right? You could flip it around and actually, let's make that a dead zone. Instead, there's a roof that's 150 yards away, and yes, a water tower that's right there. An unbelievable level of incompetence.
Now, the next video that I want to show you, I'm going to call this the police car scramble. Now, we just talked about the ladies. These are all men here. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a police car through a fence. And it looks like there was no planning. It looks like there was no idea. You can see the police car trying to ram this fence twice, fails both times, and after a while the police just start running. Now, from what I can understand, they were trying to run towards the shooter, or what they thought was the shooter. I don't really understand the logistics of it, but you can clearly see they're trying to let a police car through a fence, and it's not working. Again, take a look at this.
Hit it like you mean it.
And finally, just one more video here. Again, there's lots out there, but just very quickly, I think we all saw, anyway, the red-haired guy. I think he had red hair, or he had a hat that looked like it had red hair, talking about the fact that the citizens were trying to, and it was a BBC broadcast, oddly enough, talking to the journalist and telling the BBC journalist that, yeah, we saw the guy. We were trying to alert the authorities, and no one seemed to care. Well, that was intriguing to me, but then I was able to find this video where it actually shows, you can hear the citizens trying to get the attention of the police officer, and on this video that was taken, you can actually see a man lying down on the roof, what appears to be aiming or looking towards President Trump. Again, take a look at this.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there.
Where?
Right there, you see him? He's laying down. You see him?
Yeah, he's laying down. And so I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a senator.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look. There he is.
Easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people. Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof, big guy.
Up here.
In the end, what we have is just a complete mess. Is it incompetence, or is it a coup? Who even knows? There's so many theories out there, each one making more or less sense than the next, and there's new theories coming out all the time. The latest one I've heard now is someone who's supposed to be an expert is listening to the sound signatures of the shots and saying that there was definitely more than one shooter. Who knows? Me, I'm more toward, if it actually was real shooting and so forth, and not a fake job, which I don't think it was, then I have to go with a coup thing. Nobody's this incompetent. Even if you're trying, you cannot be this incompetent. Look, for example, at the people that called out to the police, what you just saw. You saw Clayton Morris there with redacted with the Pac-Man perimeter, which makes no sense whatsoever. And you saw the police car scramble there. It looks like there was no training, no foresight whatsoever. It's just terrible. And I want to say that in 1981, I was working at Rich's Shoe Store on Connecticut Avenue in Washington, D.C. It was the day that that President Reagan was shot by John Hinckley Jr. And I still remember I worked on Connecticut Avenue for Rich's Shoe Store. I think Rich's Shoe Store is no longer open. And we saw a limousine come flying past us. There was a man on the outside with what looked like an Uzi, hanging on the outside of the limousine, and we did not know what it was. There was a lot of sirens and so forth, And we actually heard about it on the radio afterwards. In other words, we had the radio on. It was usually on in the shoe store. We were Connecticut and K Street, and the limousine was on its way to George Washington University Hospital, where Reagan was operated on. Anyway, we actually saw that limousine go past us before we heard about it on the radio. We didn't know what the limousine and the sirens were about until we heard that Reagan was inside the limousine on his way to the hospital. What a contrast to that Keystone Cops show that we saw with President Trump here very recently. So, just a few points. First of all, was it a coup? Was it an act? Trump sure got himself a lot of phenomenal photo ops out of this one. Still not enough, though, for me to believe that the whole thing was an act. Although, it's kind of amazing. Is Trump that much of a boss? I mean, they were trying to move him out, and he's telling them, you can't move him out until I get my shoes. And then he gets up and he says, fight, fight, fight. I guess he's that much of a boss. He can boss around the Secret Service. I don't know. But it seems funny. But again, I still don't believe it was an act, although I understand. Now, these next 2 points I want to really drive home here, and that's this. Well, actually, 3 points. Let me start with this one. January 6th, remember that one? The coup, the attempt to subvert our democracy back on January 6th in 2021, or whatever it was. Yeah, 2021, obviously 2021. That was a coup, right? But apparently this character, Thomas Matthew Crooks, if he actually was the shooter, he brought one more gun than the entire J6 crew. Think about it. January 6th was supposed to be an insurrection. No one brought a single weapon to it. But Thomas Matthew Crooks actually outguns the entire J6 crew with one gun. We're told that was supposed to be a grand insurrection. No one even brought a single weapon. Thomas Matthew Crooks outgunned them all. One 20-year-old actually outguns the whole J6 insurrection crowd. How horribly we've been lied to. An insurrection. What a tremendous lie. Okay, now here's the lesson I really want to get across. When the civil authority is in a position of power over my neighbor, rather than protection of and for my neighbor, then we will see even more violence, because people will fight for power over their neighbor, but they will not fight for the opportunity to protect their neighbor. They won't fight each other for the opportunity to protect their neighbor. And what I'm saying is this: as the civil authorities get more power, then they can get more money, and they will have more and more of an ability to murder their neighbors, plunder their neighbors. And when you are fighting for that kind of a position, I mean, if you're, think about it. If you're fighting for an opportunity to plunder and murder your neighbor, then you will not hesitate to plunder and murder your competitor for that position. That is not the Bible way, my friends. In the Bible, especially like Romans 13, for example, the job of the civil magistrate is to protect my neighbor's person and property, never to plunder my neighbor's person and property. And there's another point that I want to make about that. In the book of Judges, we never had bloodshed over who gets to be a judge, because the job of the judge in the book of the Judges was protection. It was judgment between a man and his neighbor, as the scripture says. That's what it was. But when we see the civil authority gaining power, for example, Saul, Samuel told everybody in 1 Samuel 8, he's going to take the best of your fields. He's going to take 1/10 of your goods. He is going to take your stuff. And then Saul immediately uses their stuff to buy himself power. You'll remember he hires Doeg the Edomite, who eventually kills the priest. And Saul gains power through gaining, first of all, the property of his neighbor. And that is what civil magistrates will do. If they aren't in it to protect their neighbor, they will be in it to plunder their neighbor. So I want you to consider, when it is the job of the civil magistrate and all the civil magistrate wants to do is protect his neighbor, there's not going to be bloodshed. But when that civil magistrate has power to murder and plunder his neighbor, now we're going to see bloodshed. And as our civil authorities gain more and more power over us, and boy, do they ever have a lot right now, we will see more and more bloodshed. One other final point I want to make here. For all you people, and you know who you are, Trump is Hitler, and Trump is this, and Trump is that. Well, if he really is Hitler, then why are you complaining about this attack on Trump? I hope you're not complaining. You should be saying, as some of you hypocrites are, well, it's too bad it didn't do his job and too bad the guy missed. Well, come out and say it then. Come out and say it. Come out and say that, yeah, Trump really is. I really do believe he's Hitler, and he really should have shot him, because wouldn't it have been a good thing if Hitler would have been shot? But no, you're weaseling in and out about it. Well, maybe it was Trump's own rhetoric that made this happen and so forth. No, stop it right now. Say what you've been saying the whole time, you hypocrites. Say it, and say yes. He should have shot him because Trump really is Hitler. But you're not saying that because you don't believe that Trump is Hitler for a moment. You incredible lying hypocrites. It's disgusting, the whole lot of you. You know who you are, the Joy Behars or Bihars of the world, and the Whoopi Goldbergs of the world. Whoopi, I mean, what kind of name is Whoopi? Like, hey, my name is Whoopi. Well, Whoopi. What a mess. Anyway, you know who you are, and you are disgusting hypocrites that should not have a microphone anywhere at all. Well, thanks for being with me on this today. Thanks for coming this far. I hope you like and subscribe to the Joel Saint podcast. I also hope you check out our upcoming, there's information on the screen now about our upcoming conference. Joe Boot will be our main speaker. We'll have Matt Trewella there. We'll have John Harris there from Conversations That Matter. And we will be talking about the fact that Christ is King. Without Christ being king, my friend, then it's all it is down here is a fight for power. That's all that it is. Because where are you going to know how to find out what's right, what's wrong, and what the limits of the civil magistrate are? Because if the civil magistrate has no limits, then it's just going to be a bloodbath anyway, and the biggest gun wins, and the guy who can kill everybody else wins. But the Bible gives us limits to the authority and power of the civil magistrate. More on that in the screen in front of you. Thank you again. I hope you like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.